Tonight, the community of James Smith Cree Nation is preparing residents ahead of next week's inquest into the 2022 mass stabbing. Also, how an undefeated U of S Huskies women's basketball team looks to keep its winning record going. Plus, California football players take on the Canadian cold at a tournament in Moose Jaw.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Friday, January 12th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams in for Sam McKeag. Thanks for joining us tonight. The Crown wants a life sentence for the man who killed a young RCMP officer east of Regina 3 years ago. Lawyers made their sentencing arguments at Court of King's Bench today, and the court heard emotional statements from both the family and the police force. Tyreek Reed has the details.
Constable Shelby Patton's mother says she has lost all joy since losing her son. The family read their victim impact statements at Regina's Court of King's Bench.
This is something that we shouldn't have to prove, how much we love Shelby and what a good person he was, what a good member he was. But, I mean, it's important to put everything on the table.
His father talked about how proud he was when his son became a police officer and how heartbroken the family has been since the 26-year-old's death in June of 2021. Alphonse Travers pleaded guilty to manslaughter in September. The Winnipeg man was high on crystal meth when he and a friend drove to Saskatchewan in a stolen truck. The RCMP constable pulled them over in Wolseley, east of Regina. And when Travers tried to drive off, Shelby Patton fell off the running board and was run over by the rear tire. Saskatchewan's top RCMP officer also read a statement. She'll never forget breaking the news to Patton's wife.
I use the word devastating, and I'm not sure that adequately describes the impact when you watch a young woman, her entire world literally collapse in seconds. All her hopes, dreams gone. It is impactful, and you will never, I will never forget that moment.
The Crown says the maximum penalty, life in prison, is appropriate, given the victim was a police officer. And Travers has a criminal history stretching back 30 years. The defense is asking for 16 years, saying it was a mere accident. Travers read a statement in court. He was very emotional, crying as he apologized. He said he knows people will never forgive him, but takes responsibility for what happened. Travers is due back in court for sentencing at the end of February. Patton's family wants the maximum punishment, saying this crime has given them a life sentence of heartbreak. Tyreek Reed, CBC News, Regina.
A public inquest begins Monday into the mass stabbings that happened at James Smith Cree Nation and in the town of Weldon in September of 2022. Leaders invited CBC to the community this week. They say they are working hard to prepare residents and protect their mental health. Jason Warwick has more.
The hurt is still there. The grieving is still there.
James Smith Cree Nation Chief Wally Burns says his community is still reeling. It's been more than a year since the mass stabbings that left 11 people dead and 17 others injured. Killer Miles Sanderson also died in RCMP custody after being arrested following a 4-day manhunt. A public inquest into the deaths is set to begin Monday in Melfort.
Here at James Smith Cree Nation, emotions are not far from the surface. Community leaders fear that next week's inquest could cause even more trauma, but they're also hopeful it'll provide the answers they seek.
I think it's going to be very traumatic to see all of the evidence, the physical evidence that's presented. Inquests are very clinical, medical, graphic.
The 3 chiefs that govern James Smith invited CBC News to the community earlier this week. They were meeting privately with families, as well as Saskatchewan's chief coroner, Clive Wayhill.
It's a very hard story to listen to.
Wayhill says he'll do all he can to minimize trauma. He says elders and grief specialists will be on site. Families who don't want to attend can receive regular summaries.
Can we find something that would prevent this from happening in the future? So let's honor the people that passed away. Let's have their story told. Put rumors to rest so people factually know what happened, and hopefully we can get some good recommendations at the end.
The inquest is set to last 3 weeks and hear from approximately 30 witnesses. A separate inquest to examine the death of Miles Sanderson is scheduled for February. Jason Warwick, CBC News, James Smith Cree Nation.
Saskatoon firefighters had their hands full for much of the day after a flour mill went up in flames. Officials say reports started coming in this morning about the fire at the P&H mill on 33rd Street East. When crews arrived, the fire had spread to the 5th and 6th floors through an exhaust pipe. Flames were also coming out of the windows. Staff were evacuated from the building and no injuries were reported.
It was a fairly substantial fire on the 6th floor. It was coming out 3 windows that I would say are 6 feet by 4 feet. So a fairly substantial fire on the 3rd floor.
Hogan says the extreme cold made fighting the fire a lot harder as equipment kept freezing up. Still, crews managed to get the fire under control within about 3 hours. No word yet on what may have caused the blaze or the amount of damage the building sustained. The U of S Huskies women's basketball team is undefeated with a 10-0 record so far. In fact, they're one of only 2 teams in Canadian varsity basketball still without a loss. Tonight, they take on the UBC Okanagan and hope to keep that winning streak going. Dane Patterson went to a practice to see how the team is managing that pressure.
Halfway through the season, this team is red hot. But despite all the wins, players are trying to stay grounded.
We don't like to focus on that too much. Obviously, the end of the season is when you want to be playing your best basketball, and that's what we're gearing towards. I think we all kind of try to forget about it at a moment.
Veteran head coach Lisa Tomaitis has been leading the team since the late 90s. In fact, she's been at the helm for longer than most of these players have been alive.
I knew since I was like grade 8, grade 9, I was like, I want to play for Lisa.
And with that experience, Tomaitis knows what it takes to win. She's coached the Huskies to 2 national championships, most recently in the 2019-20 season, and 7 Canada West titles. She says she can't remember the last time she's seen an opening record like this for the Huskies without a loss, including in the exhibition games. Still, she says this success doesn't change much.
No, it doesn't matter at all. I mean, it matters how you're playing in February and March, right? And there's no championships that are won in January or November. So
last year, the Huskies and the University of Regina Cougars were tied for first coming out of the regular season. Then they were knocked out by the University of Alberta in the semifinals. Tomaitis says this team has the drive to come back from that heartbreak. It has depth. It's building confidence in those clutch moments and resembles previous Huskies teams with the Midas touch.
there's a lot of great chemistry on and off the court. I think we've had some teams in the past that have accomplished great things that have come off a disappointing season the year before.
The players agree. Half of them are from Saskatchewan, and some have played with and against each other in the past.
It's super fun, like being able to step onto the court, play with 12 of my best friends each and every game. Yeah, it's like you can't beat that feeling.
They hope to keep that feeling going as they get ready to play their next 10 games. Then playoffs begin, and their quest to win a championship goes into overdrive. Dane Patterson, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Well, kudos to you if you were one of the brave souls who took on the cold today. Let's just hope you had enough winter gear on to stay warm. This cold streak continues into the weekend, unfortunately, and it will be dangerously cold at times. But next week might just bring a bit of relief. Stay with us. I'll have your full forecast when we come back. Welcome back. Well, there are plenty of concerns and warnings about the cold, and that concern extends to animals as well. Residents of the Calgary Zoo are also going through the deep freeze, and CBC's Dave Gilson has more on how the different species are coping with the cold.
As the zoo's polar bears take to the ice and pool in their habitat, officials say it's an example of a cold-tolerant species that tends to spend some time outdoors when temperatures drop. They say cold-tolerant animals at the zoo can range from mountain goats to snow leopards. Wild Canada Zone Supervisor Jax Hogard says care priorities for them include a proper diet and letting them control and choose where they want to go, whether that's outdoors, shelter, or beds. They say species that aren't able to deal with the cold include those in the savanna and rainforest zones. She says they all have temperature parameters and are cared for indoors when it's too cold.
Every species has a different temperature parameter that we have to make sure that we're watching the temperatures constantly. We look at the daily temperatures, the overnight temperatures, but again, it completely depends on the species.
The zoo adds people can still visit the animals inside and outside through the winter. It says the penguin walk is expected to commence January 15th, weather and temperature permitting. Dave Gilson, CBC News, Calgary.
The weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac. Level Up Your Ride event is on now.
Well, a lot of us have been relying on the highway hotline this week when venturing out on the roads, and it's now a bit easier to see what conditions are like before you head out. 6 new highway cameras have been added throughout central Saskatchewan. They include Highway 6 near Dafo, Highway 6 near Nacum, Highway 14 near Macklin, Highway 16 near Sheo, Highway 40 near Blaine Lake, and Highway 55 near Smeaton. And that means there's now over 50 highway cameras across the province. They're updated about every 5 minutes or so on the Highway Hotline website. While it's not the snow and the visibility that's really posing an issue, of course, it's the cold weather like we just saw in Calgary there as well, where they're sitting in a chilly minus 32, and all of us pretty much across the province sitting into the minus 30s at the moment. Wind chill making that feel like minus 50 at the moment in Regina, and really upper minus 40s is what we're feeling like in a lot of spots. Swift current with the fiercest wind chill this afternoon hitting minus 55. We actually had a minus 59 reported early this morning in central Alberta. Now those wind chills, of course, continuing to bring those extreme cold warnings which are in effect. I think a lot of us going to be in that more like minus 45 to minus 50 range overnight and really through these next few days. And if you're wondering, the last time we were this cold, in Regina, the last time we had a daytime high at or below minus 30, we have to go back over a year to December of 2022. In Saskatoon, it's even longer than that, to the beginning of January of 2022. And the last time we had a wind chill at or below minus 50 in Saskatoon was that same time period as well. In Regina, it's a little further back than that, December of 2021, New Year's Eve, in fact, that year. Swift current with a forecast overnight low of minus 40 tonight. That likely will be the coldest temperature that you've seen, or the last time you hit minus 40, or first time you've hit minus 40 rather, since New Year's Eve of over 31 years ago. So this cold definitely prolonged and has not come around, especially for western sections of the province, in quite a long time. High pressure means that we will see clearing overnight tonight in western sections, which means it's just going to get colder there. Still a little bit of snow hanging on from that clipper in eastern sections, but as we go through the next few days here, we'll kind of see on and off cloud cover, but another area of high pressure develops as we head into Sunday, Monday. That'll pretty much clear us out as we start the work week. Manitoba affected by a retrogressing low pressure system over Hudson Bay there. Keep in mind, southeastern Saskatchewan, things could get a little bit breezy tomorrow afternoon, gusts in the 30 to 40 range, and that is only just going to make it feel that much colder, likely well into the minus 40s with the rest of the province, even though you're seeing temperatures just a little bit warmer than the rest of us. So here is how your forecast is playing out in Regina. Again, over the weekend, probably the coldest temperatures of this cold snap. Wind chills, especially tomorrow, very fierce before we start seeing a gradual improvement. Sunday, looking for a high of minus 29. Monday, coming out of the minus 30 range. And then a sharp improvement as a ridge starts to build into the jet stream. And that brings us some minus teens as we head into Tuesday and through the rest of the week. But keep in mind, Thursday, that is likely going to feel closer to minus 30, minus 35 with the wind that we're going to be seeing there. Saskatoon, very possible that we won't break minus 30 over these next couple of days here until we get into Monday when we see that similar warm up. There is the possibility of some flurries heading into Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday, though, we're going to be seeing some clearing. You do have the chance of seeing some wind gusts on Thursday as well, before a high of minus 18 on Friday. Well, all aboard the world's largest ever cruise ship. This is the Royal Caribbean's Icon of the Seas, a new vessel with capacity for around 10,000 passengers. It features 8 distinct onboard neighborhoods, including a green space dubbed Central Park. The ship is also the first to feature an entire water park on the water. Icon of the Seas is set to make her maiden voyage in 2 weeks. Stay with us. We're back after the break. Well, many will remember the camp that sprung up last year at Regina City Hall, which was ultimately dismantled. There's been a lot of debate around camps in downtown Edmonton as well, prompting arguments about whether it's safer to tear them down or leave them as necessary shelter for people living there. But increasingly, many Edmontonians experiencing homelessness are avoiding the city's core altogether. Paige Parsons visited camps around the city to speak to people about why they're setting up far from indoor shelters and social services.
It's Anson Palmer's fourth winter living on Edmonton streets. With temperatures dropping, he and his fiancée are bracing for things to get tough.
Fight last year, so it gets cold for some of us that have already gotten frostbite. And it's a hard thing to do, but some of us like to be out here better than in shelters or something like that.
The couple has set up camp near Southgate in South Edmonton. We met him while he was checking in on a friend set up on Gateway Boulevard. Most of Edmonton's social agencies and homeless shelters are downtown. So why are many people setting up camp further and further out?
The uncleanliness. The places are filthy.
Bed bugs and cockroaches and people stealing shoes off my feet.
It's quieter. Not a lot of stuff goes missing or anything else like that.
The future of Edmonton's encampments has regularly been making headlines.
People united will never be defeated!
With advocates who say removing makeshift shelters is unconstitutional, challenging the city and police, who say street gangs have infiltrated some of the camps.
Not only do they victimize, people within the encampments, the crime that's occurring on the street, the drug dealing, is they turn on themselves quite quickly. So they're extremely ruthless, and I can say what they lack in sophistication, they make up for in violence.
A University of Alberta criminologist who's been doing field work with Edmonton's homeless population says some people are avoiding the core because of gang activity.
One person put it really succinctly, said, "I'd rather be here and hungry but safe than well-fed downtown but be potentially attacked."
Urbanik says she's heard from local street gang members that there's been a collapse in group leadership. She says the street code, rules that protect the vulnerable people living on the streets, has eroded. But in West Edmonton, people living rough say gang activity isn't the only reason to steer clear of downtown.
The gangs keep their stuff on the DL where it belongs. From a pure business perspective, they don't appear to be at war, but of course they are. And when I'm in a more populous area, what I find to be the biggest danger is just uncleanliness.
Warren says he's been spending a lot of time at this new warming center on Stony Plain Road. It's open in afternoons and evenings. He heads back outside to sleep, usually alone, somewhere out of sight.
Because that's the one thing I can count on myself being able to do, is find a place where the cops won't catch me loitering or dangerous or annoying somebody.
As the homeless population grows, the camps are getting more attention.
Some people are choosing to have their camp a bit more visible, just so that, if there is a fire or if someone is coming and, going through their camp or something, that it's visible and maybe there's people around to help. But it does, of course, also increase the chance that their camp will be reported and they'll have enforcement come out.
The number of people sleeping rough in West Edmonton has also been on the rise.
And truly, I'm hearing about it from people in almost every community I represent, which is something I'd never experienced in my 10 years on council.
Knack says more housing is the only solution. In the interim, he wants to see the province address concerns about the conditions in shelters.
You could do that within a few short years. And in the meantime, you can make sure that the shelters are operating at better standards so that you're not putting somebody in a position where they feel like, I'm debating between being warm and safe.
CBC News requested a copy of the province's shelter standards. The province did not provide a copy and instead sent a statement saying shelter standards were updated last year to include more cultural and spiritual supports, increasing the focus on connections to housing, employment, and income supports, and ensuring shelters can provide a trauma-informed space for all clients. For those still choosing to avoid shelters, focus has turned to surviving in the cold. Palmer says he and his fiancée try to scrape by, shoveling snow for donations and picking bottles.
We're not out here creating trouble. We're out here just living just like everybody else. We just, we do things differently, and we're just trying to get by like everybody else.
Paige Parsons, CBC News, Edmonton.
Well, and of course, the cold will be a major concern in both Regina and Saskatoon. Already at midnight, that wind chill feeling close to -50 under partly cloudy skies, and we'll still see those partly cloudy conditions by morning in Regina. Wind chill still not really budging all that much, and nothing really changes by the afternoon. Unfortunately, still very cold, but a little bit of cloud cover building into Regina for the afternoon. For Saskatoon, very similar conditions here, -33 under partly cloudy skies at midnight. Heading into the morning hours, I think we'll keep the sun and the cloud mix, and that'll probably be the situation as we head through the day. An afternoon temperature of around -34. We won't warm up much more than that. And we are looking for pretty much the same conditions heading into Sunday as well. Well, it may be cold outside, but the action is heating up inside at the Yara Center in Moose Jaw. This weekend, 20 teams from across the prairies, as well as a pair of teams from the U.S., are taking part in the 3rd annual Battle on the Prairies football tournament. The players from California had to battle the players on the field, but also the frigid weather, which has come as a bit of a culture shock.
Never. Not cold like this, at least. When we went to Texas, I thought 30 degrees was cold, but when we came here, it was a whole different story.
Zelko Stefanovic, I'm the executive director. Saskatchewan Selects is a development program that we started in 2011. We have 7 different age levels that we train with over here, and then every winter, we go to a tournament somewhere in the U.S. So this winter, this February, we're going to be going to Orlando. Yeah.
And now you've created your own tournament.
Now we've created our own tournament. So we said, hey, let's have a little tune-up thing here. And something that was started off as little is now the thing behind me, man. Like the big screen and announcers and music pumping, and the vibe in here is crazy.
My name is Damian Mahoney. I am the head coach of the Mambas. We are from Southern California. We are called the IE Mambas. We're from like Riverside, Marina Valley, Palm Springs. We have kids actually that come from all over the area of the Inland Empire of Southern California. We actually stopped by Walmart. We had to stop by Walmart. The bus dropped us off, and kids were getting gloves, getting the rest of the stuff we had. We live close to Big Bear, so we're used to the cold, negative or 20, but not like the negatives. Not like the negatives.
My name is Darian Mahoney. I'm number 2, and I'm on the IE Mambas from California. It's a lot different. I know all the foods and stuff are very different, but they're super good. And the people are different. I was just asking around because like different things in California, like Chick-fil-A, you guys don't have that here, don't you? In California, or like United States, we call it High C. You guys call it Fruitopia. That was super good. I like Fruitopia more than High C though. We went to a spa so far, outdoor spa. That was super cool. It was just cold, and I was worried that we're gonna have to walk outside in the snow to get in, but we didn't. It was just a pool to get in.
Jeffrey Simmons, D tackle, IE Mambas. Everyone's kinder here.
Really?
Yeah.
How about the food?
Awesome. Love it so far. It's the same for us, similar because it's moist in the air, like it feels wetter. But in terms of temperature, no, it knocks the hell, no.
I think we can all relate to that. That is it for us this week. For news anytime, you can always visit our website, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or download the CBC News app. We will be back on Monday at 6 with all your news and weather. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Have a great weekend.